Well, it could be this whole idea that women tend to be more liberal. They don't need the facts. And I always, Ben Shapiro's famous quote is, facts don't care about your feelings. And I said this to him in front of you. I said, I think you're wrong. I think feelings don't care about the facts. And a lot of women go off of feeling, not fact. I don't think a single person in this country voted in this election because of new facts that they discovered. I don't think anyone thought, oh, they're actually transing more kids than I knew, or it's more widespread than I realized, or groceries, their inflation really is that bad, or there are this many illegals coming over the border. It wasn't, I don't think it was those numbers. You felt it. You had kids that were going to school with furries who were in litter boxes in their bathroom. You were going to the supermarket realizing that you could afford less, or that everything cost you more, right? Like you had, illegals in your neighborhood, things were getting more dangerous because of the border issues. People felt it.
All right, Arynne Wexler, a.k.a. Non-Lib Take. I'm holding my glasses in my hands, which means I'm going to ask you very serious questions this entire time, doing this, and then saying, so who is Arynne Wexler? What's going on here? For most people that are watching this, they've probably seen you on this show before. But for somebody that has no idea who you are, other than absolutely amazing hair, what's going on with this Arynne Wexler chick?
Well, if they don't,
why is she on the Rubin Report?
If they don't know me, they should know I usually don't look this put together. The hair's never, I got a blowout for you, Dave.
Thank you.
So I dress my best for you. Although maybe it's making up for the
Not
number.
Totally sure what a blowout is. It's like, that's you just go to get your hair.
I got my hair.
They don't cut it. They just blow dry.
They just put air on it and make it look nice.
And you can't do that at home.
No, I don't know how to do this. So usually when I'm on your show during the week, I have half wet hair, and you still, for some reason, let me back on.
We still put you on. Well, it's on Skype. It's not as jarring.
It's not as obvious. Yeah. But I run the Instagram account Non-Lib Take, although I'm talking with people about maybe changing the handle because I'm not a marketing expert, but I really have approached politics this last year. I was in tech up until a year ago, wanted to come with a different angle of being a more city conservative, not necessarily the part of the movement that I love, which is Nashville, cowboy boots, country music. That is a part of our culture, but also meeting people in this more urban culture of you could live in a condo and go to Casa Cipriani and be normal and have common sense and still vote for Trump and wear your MAGA hat in New York City. And I use humor a lot. I like to say I'm funny for a woman, even though the bar for that is exceedingly low.
Yeah, it's pretty. We lost Joan Rivers, and then it's been pretty much nothing since then.
May she rest in peace. We love Joan. And I like to say that I'm sort of if Joan Rivers and Ben Shapiro had a baby, that it would be me, because
you grew up near Joan Rivers country, right?
Yes.
In Westchester.
Yes. Yeah. But I love diamonds, and I have her sense of humor, and I have his politics and eyebrows. And so I would say in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Those are the Ben Shapiro eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Wow. And you can do the double.
I could do a little.
The double move. Before you got into this crazy world of politics, you were in tech, you were in finance, you have a pretty good pedigree of like real things before you got into the wacky world of politics. Yeah. Let's do that a little bit.
Yeah. So I was a real person before being an influencer. All my friends joke that I moved from New York to Miami and became an influencer, because that's like the classic path now. Yeah. But this was the harder path. And this was the path that I decided a year ago was important, because people forget now that Trump's in office, everything's going so well. It feels like it was predestined, and in many ways it was. But a year ago, it didn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. A year ago, it felt very tenuous. Biden was still the nominee. And I was sitting in my tech job at a great company with great people. And I thought, am I really going to sit here like typing away, doing not important, like it's fun, it's interesting, but it's not important stuff? Or am I going to try to change the culture and show people that you can be conservative, and also take people who are already conservative and make them more courageous and show them it's okay to say these things? So I'm the person that says the thing that even a conservative is usually afraid to say. And I was very thankful to you that last week you actually covered some of my quotes from New York Magazine. Yeah. And I don't know if we want to get into that at all.
Sure.
But I say the thing that
we'll show the cover of the article right now, because it was very scary. White people, although just out of frame, Black people, yeah. Yes. And it was all kinds of people who were there from all backgrounds. But so that's how I got into this, is realizing that
even though I listen to most of my podcasts that I listen to are white men, but a lot of people actually need someone that looks like them. And I get this comment a lot that I look and talk the way someone who would, vote for Kamala, the way a liberal would look, because I am from New York.
Yeah.
I did go to all these institutions that they all aspire to be a part of. I went to the Ivy League. I worked at Goldman Sachs on the trading floor. I was working in tech at these, hot startups. So they also can't call me stupid on the left because I might be retarded, but I'm not stupid. And so they really can't go after me.
I might be gay, but I'm not stupid.
I might be a woman. I don't know, but we'll stop there. But yeah, that's basically how I got into this.
So how did you not? We've discussed some of this stuff privately, and we were friends outside of this. So you said to me right before we started, it's kind of funny because then we sit down and then the camera's on and it alters everything by 5%. And also we're going to talk about some things that I actually do know about you, but have to ask you anyway. Yeah. But how did you not get infected by that thing? I mean, can I say your age?
You could say 31.
You're 31, right? You're 31. So your prime age to have been really hit by all of that woke crap, even though it was a little bit before we called it woke and everything. Yeah. How did you not were you ever infected with?
No, I never was. I don't have a dark past like you, Dave. I always say that I was always conservative because I always had a brain, but I grew up in a house and, I noticed on Bill Maher, he asked Matt Gaetz recently, he asked a lot of conservatives, and you've been on his show, and he always asks the conservatives on his show, well, are your parents conservative? And it's because we're this anthropological enigma to the left where they can't possibly imagine that we just thought this way on our own, right? It had to come as a legacy from our family that infected us. No one ever asks anyone on the left if their parents were liberal. Right. But my parents were conservative.
It's also an implication that somehow something's wrong with it, that it had to have been force-fed to you as opposed to you coming to
the conclusion, yes. But my parents actually never told me what they thought. Actually, they didn't tell me if they believed in God or what their politics were. To this day, I actually don't. I should ask my parents
Maybe you could ask.
if they believe in God. I know at this point we're all very openly conservative.
Maybe they could comment on the video. That would be fine.
Yeah, that's they're boomers, so I can't ask them to do that. But they just let me come to my own conclusions. And they would also, it was kind of like the Kennedys, where our dinner table was always, great debate, where we would just take the other side to have it be very lively. And if I ever made a comment, I remember being 10 years old and saying something that I read in the newspaper, and my mom said, well, back it up. What do you mean by that? Back it up. And they did that because I think they knew that I would logically come to the conclusion that the right was right, and so they let me go through that journey on my own instead of force-feeding me liberal propaganda. And so since I was sentient, I remember just thinking this was common sense.
So you go through some of these institutions as the conservative chick. Mm-hmm. I assume that doesn't win you a lot of friends in that world.
No, it was tough, but I realized before cancel culture it was called cancel culture, and what it really morphed into, which is people losing their jobs and their lives being ruined. And I realized back when I was in middle school, actual middle school, where I was dealing with really intense history teachers. I went to one of the top prep schools in the country in New York City called Horace Mann. And most of our professors were PhDs from Harvard, things like that. And I remember having this one professor in particular who was so liberal that I just had to go in and know every last fact about what we were talking about. And I also realized that if I was just open about being conservative, there was no gotcha moment. Because I was just already openly conservative. And so it was just it was always a joke. It was always like, Arynne's the conservative. She's the crazy conservative one. But they also actually respected me for it because I always knew what I was talking about. And actually, this is a real story. And I wish we had social media back then. I also don't. I don't. But
no. Best we didn't have it back then. I don't even know what you're going to say, but it's best we didn't have it back then.
I wish I had a video of this because I was, and back then, you didn't save emails. You didn't say, I don't have any actual record of this, but I was on a diversity panel for middle schoolers when I was in the 11th grade. They had a lesbian, a kid on financial aid, because it was a very fancy prep school, a religiously different kid, a Jane, a freakishly tall kid.
A Jane. It's not easy to find a Jane in New York City.
There were actually a lot at my high school. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. So a Jane, a freakishly tall kid, and then me as the conservative. Oh. And so, the lesbian goes up and everyone's like, oh my God, just so brave, and everyone's applauding her.
Yeah.
And then I go up, and back then we called ourselves Republicans, you know, like we actually, it was a word you were allowed to use. Now we can't because of rhinos, I guess.
Yeah.
But I went up on stage and said, I believe in limited government and individual autonomy. And everyone was like, oh,
bring back the lesbian.
Everyone said, bring her back on stage. Get rid of this girl. And from then on, people would always come up to me. Like I was like the Underground Railroad of conservatives of Horace Mann, where people would come up to me and whisper in the bathroom, like, I'm actually conservative too. And that's when I started to realize that people were aligned and they were just afraid to say it. And God wired my brain this way. It was always easier to just say what I believed than to pretend something else.
When did you realize that the sort of New York City conservative needed to meet the kind of Nashville conservative? Because I do think that's an interesting part of this. For a lot of the, let's say, disaffected libs, the RFK, Tulsi types, even the way I was years ago, there's this thing like, oh, if you start hanging out with the conservatives, next thing you know, you're like at the rodeo. Not that there's anything wrong with the rodeo, but it's like a leap too far for some of these people, at least overnight.
Yeah.
And I think you sort of grasped like, oh, you can still be in these different divergent places and kind of all come together in some sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I float between all these different worlds. So I have friends who, you know, like I've gone hunting in Alabama and we didn't get anything, but that's a whole other story. We'll go again. But, and I've been to the rodeo now that I'm in this space with friends like that.
You've been to the Florida rodeo.
I've been to the Florida rodeo. So I want to go to like the Texas rodeo.
Yeah,
I want to go to like a real, like I love going out west, but I've always liked bluegrass, not country. Like, sorry, some people might dislike me over that. But I just think it's okay. I want to show people that you can have these ideas and you don't have to meet us in what we're calling maybe like our culture on the right, because I think that makes a lot of people think who would otherwise share, you know, the majority of their views would overlap with the conservative movement, the MAGA movement, whatever you want to call it. They think, well, I want to live in a city and I don't want to live, you know, am I allowed to curse on the show?
You can curse on the show. Have you ever seen the Rubin Report before?
Yes, I've been
very popular program.
But like, you don't have to want to like churn your own fucking butter at home.
Right.
To vote in this way, right? And that's really important. And by the way, I want to have my own home churned butter, but I'm from
it sounds great.
I'm from New York, so I'll have the nanny do it. You know,
okay,
like I won't actually do it.
I saw Joan just appear for a moment. That was a little Joan Rivers right there.
Yeah.
So these worlds are coming together, and I think that represents a strong part of what's going on here. So you start making content, and were you like, all right, this is what I'm going to do now? Like, I'm just going to put aside, I assume you were probably making six figures and doing all right in the financial world? I
was doing just fine in tech. And I had a lot of friends for my whole life. People have always said, you remind me of Ben Shapiro. And I'd be like, oh, whatever. You know, like it was this comment I always got.
You're like a tall Ben Shapiro.
Oh, that's so mean. Ben, I'm sorry. I didn't say it. It wasn't me. But yes, it's true. No, and my whole life, people have said that. And I had a series of people at the right time last year say, you should just start posting videos. And even though there are these, like, we've talked about this, these neo-Nazis that are coming after me who think I'm only doing this post-October 7th as some Mossad agent. Yeah. I actually started doing this end of June, early July of 2024. And I would dip my toe in on TikTok. And the first video had 20,000 views. And I thought, you know, in a world where we're dealing with like China numbers and I don't believe anything, it's like when their GDP comes out, I'm like, they were kind of like, oh, what do we want people to feel about our GDP this time? You know, it's not real numbers, but in a world where everyone's living in that fake scenario, like I was getting 20K views and then 50K views, 3 weeks in, go viral. Another couple weeks in, go viral again. Our friend Ben Shapiro is reacting to my videos. So it just started it went really, really fast. And then I got put in TikTok prison too many times.
What did you do? What was
I don't even remember.
Did you say that boys and girls were different?
It was something really benign. Yeah. It wasn't even that. It was just being conservative or not. Like my thing is I'm not liberal because there are aspects to me that aren't necessarily conservative. I'd call it more like patriotic even, because I'm not trying to promote a ultra conservative lifestyle. I wear athleisure out. I'm like I'm not trying to be that aesthetic, but I am politically conservative. But I was just conservative. And on TikTok, these crazy leftist accounts will send their followers on you and just have them report you. So all you need is for them to report you. So that happened to me a bunch of times. I got hardcore shadow banned. And that is when I moved over to Instagram to see if I could do anything there. So that's why there was a delay between TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, but I'm very thankful to my very liberal friends who said, you just have to start posting online.
What do you think has happened to so many of the 31-year-old girls who don't think the way you do? I'll ask you about the guys separately, but I think there's something, because I think they're very different and specific things, what's happening to the girls and what's happening to the guys.
Well, I think in general, I am different than most women. I don't mean to be like, oh, I'm so different. I was like, we all think we're all so special. We're all, the main character in our story, but I am different than the girls I grew up with. I wasn't into the same things. I didn't like, the makeup. I did like Barbie dolls and all that, but I liked math and science, and I didn't like girl drama. And I only started doing makeup 2 months ago because I'm doing all these shows now. I don't even know. I didn't own eyeshadow.
Killing it, by the way.
Thank you. I also did not do this either. but I've always been interested in very different things. I was argumentative and liked politics. So that's all to say that I don't think I speak for most women in the way they think, but I'm on the outside looking in and seeing my girlfriends who think this way. And I do think generally women are more intuitive and emotional and easily swayed by things. And I think we also all grew up, and a study needs to be done here, like an anthropological type or like behavioral econ study on the effects of the daughters of women who were working and going to college through that wave of feminism. Because I think a lot about the way I was raised, and the focus from our mothers was that, they were supposed to be the girl bosses, but they actually were the ones that wound up having kids and working from home because they were the ones with the children. So a lot of them, Ivy League educated, decided to, or wherever across the country, these women were told they were supposed to have it all, realized they couldn't, had these daughters, and then they placed that pressure on us of, now, no, you're actually going to be the one that has it all. And so, the left has been very effective generally at taking over culture. And that's also why I think humor is so important, because we had decades of a chokehold on our culture from late night TV and just these ideas of poo-pooing what it means to be a mom. And now I think we've gone too extreme. Now people are saying you should only want to be home with your kids.
Right.
And I think that's so, for the people who want to do that, that is wonderful. It is the hardest job in the world. It is the most important job in the world. But not every woman wants to be told you should want to sit at home with your kids doing nothing else. Like not a job that pays you, but even just having something else that takes your time, whether it's helping with charity, organizing something, whatever that is. And so I think now we're kind of just reverting back to the mean a little bit, but there's still a lot of women who at this point are, if you're 31 years old and you're not 21, because I think the 21-year-olds are actually seeing this and taking a different path than millennials are, but the Gen Z group, at this point is cognitive dissonance, because you have to live with yourself to know that you've been single or lived with guys and then it didn't work out or dated the wrong person. There's all this that you have to reconcile and be happy with. And it's very hard to live with yourself, realizing that you made choices that you don't like.
So do you see this as like there's like the hysterical female comedian version of this, like the Chelsea Handler, Sarah Silverman, sort of childless, entering 50s Kathy Griffin, like they did it a certain way and now they're just kind of like angry at the world.
But they're an extreme. I think what's maybe more dangerous, like the sleeper cell female, is the white liberal woman who does have a kid, who is married maybe, but she doesn't want to be a mom, or being a mom isn't championed, and she'd rather be sitting at her mid-level email job somewhere, instead of being at home more. And, a lot of times I see them.
Or transing her kid maybe to get the intrinsic value.
Right, because she's actually in this heterosexual relationship that's like heteronormative, as they call it, right? But the kid is normal, and so they have to make something special about the whole situation. But like the number of times I've seen on TV shows recently on Netflix, it's all trash, but I put Netflix on sometimes to, have background noise, and the woman is arguing with the man over whose career is more important. And that's in like every show. There's always a storyline like that. And you look and one's like, the guy is a doctor who's supposed to be saving kids in Africa, and the woman is like a marketer person. And she's like, are you saying my career isn't as important? And they have this guy acting like a total cuck, soy beta loser, going, no, you're right. Like your job is as important. And the answer should be no. You're a mid-level marketing manager doing something that you don't even care about. And we act as if, a woman is more free when she's working for a corporation than she is for her family.
So since you said soy beta cuck, do you know my theory about blowjob politics? Do you know my blowjob theory?
Oh, that men will do anything to get a blowjob.
Yeah. How do you think this? We must have discussed this at some point.
Yeah,
so you think I'm right about this? Like, there's just like a certain amount of men that they've been cucked, as you said, because at the end of the day, they don't want to be bludgeoned with all this stuff, so they just kind of shut up because they would like a once a week blowjob.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And also, it only gets to that point because men have been bludgeoned from the day they were born in this country to be told being masculine is bad, right? And that weak is strong. And so they're so weak that they don't know how to lead a woman. And I think men and women lead each other in different ways. But right now, we don't have that leadership from men in society. We don't have that masculine energy, and so I think the whole world is sort of.
But you feel like we're getting it back, right? Like it does seem to be turning now.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people talking about like Pete Hegseth coming in saying, "Oh, he doesn't necessarily know how to lead the Pentagon." Yeah, I think it's great that we have someone who's just an extremely attractive, masculine, like alpha male who will inspire similar men to join our military. That I actually think that image, like him on TV. In charge of our military, Secretary of Defense, that is a good image. Isn't that better than some nerd who knows how to run a corporation? Like, what's actually going to make our military
I like a
more
fat
feared,
dude
right?
dressed up as a chick in charge of health and wellness
You're
of our
right,
children.
100%. 100%. But I think we are, not just that, but there's this androgynous form that we need to get rid of, right? The left has tried to make, like, women's hair has gotten shorter, men's hair has gotten longer. We're turning into and I've said this on your program before, but we're turning into this androgynous, fat-nippled, pixie haircut freak form of a human in society.
But how do you really feel?
But how do I really feel about it? It's like, and so that's not normal either, because we need the masculine and feminine to balance each other in the world. And the world, it's not that, in a way, we're too feminine. We've lived in this gynocracy almost, right? Like, and they're always, the left is always crying about, smash the patriarchy. We live in a matriarchy right now. Women have the world by the balls, and they have had it for 20 plus years. And now we're finally we're just rebalancing. And we also need to, unandrogynize the world and let people go back into their natural state.
How's it been, I assume, losing some friends in the course of this, and maybe some family members and the rest of it?
You'd be
I come from the Northeast. I know what it's like.
You'd be surprised. I mean, because I was always openly conservative, I didn't lose too many. But
then you start on TikTok.
And then you start online. And it's more the people who I wasn't ever friends with who are speaking. And I saw someone sent me a tweet, and I don't read the comments. I really don't care. If I cared about this, I would have killed myself already from the comments that people write. But I really don't care. I like to check comments once in a while to gauge if people like the content. But someone sent me a tweet, of someone I went to high school with, apparently, and she looks exactly the way you'd think. I recognize the name. She looks like a white Oompa Loompa. She's so enlarged. She's just so ballooned out. It's actually, it's sad. I feel badly for her.
The nipple thing you're talking about.
She for sure has fat nipples. Yeah. There's she's, she's so gross. She has the weird chopped haircut and the nose ring. And you could just tell. Yeah. I might recognize her if she were 200 pounds lighter. But it's a classic leftist. And she said something of, I went to high school with this girl and she shouldn't be platformed. But generally, no, it's been fine.
Do you worry that some of it feels cold sometimes? I've seen this comment when you put things up like you're pretty, you have a job, like you wear makeup and look right, and then you're doing this stuff about the fat nippled girls, and that it somehow is too mean? Or do you feel like it's you have to be directionally in that way to wake these people up?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me if I think I'm too mean?
No, well, not if you think you're too mean, but do you think there's a risk there or something like that?
I think that
it doesn't seem mean to me, but I've watched some of your things going, man, if I was one of these girls, I would think it was,
So I don't think you're wrong in that. I think there needs to be a good balance here of, people generally are not.
I'm asking you if you're a mean girl.
Am I a mean girl? 100%. No, but I have, there are a few layers to this, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to try to think through this because I did not read the questions in advance. There are no questions. There are no questions in advance.
Yeah.
There are no questions in advance. But okay, so first, I think that a lot of people need warmth, a warm embrace to come to you. Most people are not like pressured or shamed into doing something. And so I think there needs to be the levity, which is why I try to use comedy, because I get a lot of people saying, oh, I don't agree with you, but that was funny, right?
Yeah.
Like that is funny. And that's one way to get people. I'm going to now contradict myself and say that I think we need to bring back healthy doses of bullying, because we are dealing with an entire multiple generations at this point of people who were never bullied. No one ever said, when I was growing up, we were told, but it was starting to change, where you could get in trouble for making fun of someone. The kids would make fun of you at school, and it kept people in check. It kept these guardrails up of this is what is actually normal, right? And it stopped people from being total freaks. And when someone was a freak, you could actually identify them and think, they might like shoot up the school because they're not fucking normal. And that was actually a good way to figure out what was going on with people. And now everyone's normal and everything is acceptable, except if you're a white Trump supporter, right? So I think we do need to bully people a little bit. And I think it's important to show that we are now in that position of, we got the popular vote, act like we do dominate the culture. Because the truth is, we're starting to, but we don't fully. But you just need to act like we are there already, and people will follow suit.
And I think that is happening clearly. Like the wokesters have completely lost momentum now and just seem utterly ridiculous. I've said this on the show a couple of times, but when I was growing up, and you're 31, geez, so I have 17 years on you, which is crazy. But when I was growing up in the 80s, like I was exactly between cool and dork. Like I was right in the middle. And I remember one day in about 7th grade thinking I could work harder to be cooler. And I was like, but I like video games. Like at the end, I was just like, but I'm going to just play video games with my friends. And I was like, I'm in it with the dorks. So I was a high level dork or a low level cool guy, meaning I could be bullied by some people and bully some other people, but it kind of helped shape me. So it's okay.
I wonder what that's like, because I was actually just a nerd.
You were just a nerd?
Come
on.
I have the confidence of a girl who went to a prep school in New York City, but the humor of someone who had braces for 4 years. So this doesn't come out of being cool. This drive, this sense of humor, it takes being the awkward girl who was, in fact, the president of the high school band.
Whoa. What instrument did you play?
It's so embarrassing.
The tuba? Was it the tuba?
It was the flute. It's just, this is so embarrassing. I know I took the conversation there, but I didn't expect to be revealing this on the show today. But I was a total nerd, and I got way hotter when I was in college and like end of high school. I was a real late bloomer, which explains everything about me, I think.
So you've been online lately hitting some of what you see on the right that is not quite right, so to speak.
Yes.
What do you make of what's happening on the right now?
You're talking about the Jew hatred. Is that what you're talking about?
Basically, yeah. Well, you've been hitting Tucker a little bit.
Yeah.
There's obviously Tucker's been going after Ben and Barry Weiss and a couple other people. So there's just like some weird stuff there, which I said to you right before we sat down. I've largely tried to stay out of because I'm just kind of letting it, like I'm sort of letting it sort itself, and I don't feel like I have to be in every fight all the time. I'm in a lot of fights at a lot of times. So, but you've been in it, and I'm curious what your take is.
It's funny because when it comes to most things in the space, I want to be out of the fray. There are some people, and you can imagine who I'm talking about, who love picking fights with other people in the space. And that's not what I'm interested in. And especially when someone doesn't go after, I have people go after me personally, and I don't even respond to that. But it's really disappointing to see this trend. And it's something that I noticed in general on the right that is not specific to Tucker, but we are so excited and we get so seduced on the right by celebrity, by people with large followings, that if someone has millions of followers, they're sort of automatically forgiven and welcomed. And you see this all over the place with the kinds of celebrities we also had involved in the campaign, right? Where we look past the domestic abuse charges and we look past these different things because they're doing a rally for Trump. And part of it is we need to take what we can get, but then even after that moment, everyone gets excited. They want photos with them. They want them to retweet them, whatever it is. And I think we need to be really careful about that. We need to maintain standards as a movement. And it is really surprising to, like Kanye's back on Twitter, or X, which I do agree with. I don't think he should have been kicked off. I think it's right to reinstall him, even though, of course, one of his first tweets is shalom. Pretty funny, to be honest. But
I didn't even know he was back on, but that tells you
he's
something.
Back on.
Is that just in the last couple of days? I
mean, yeah, apparently. I don't know if he was reinstated before and then just decided to come back or what happened, but he's back on X, which, again, I agree with. But the man shows up to the Grammys with his wife completely naked, and everyone on X is just sharing these images of a naked woman, and everyone's excited because it's Kanye. But this is so against conservative values. And so and Tucker, I decided to speak out on because it is more personal, because I do think he is stoking the flames of anti-Semitism. But he's also saying things like, that we were on the wrong side of World War II. He's saying things, or maybe not the wrong side, but that we were the bad guys. We were bad guys in World War II. And everyone's just giving him a pass because they all want to be on his show and they all want him to like them. And most people just want to be liked and have their tweets go viral. And that, I just think that's cheap, and that's not why I'm in it.
So do you want to sit down with Tucker?
I would sit down with him, but it wouldn't be I love you, I'm a huge fan. It would be, let's talk about all these things that you are bringing up that I disagree with, that I think are very dangerous to the movement and to America, and I think are bringing, Tucker to me is part of this movement that's teetering on the edge of a cliff of, because we figured out that some things and so many things that were called conspiracy theory turned out to be true. Now everything is a conspiracy theory, because the government was bad about some things. Now the government was bad about everything. And it's actually possible in this world that some things are bad and some things really were just the way they were. And Tucker seems to have gone to that point where he just thinks that it's
right.
It's
We've been
fine.
lied to about an awful lot. So he's basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater, has been my take on this. I was watching him with Piers Morgan, and he basically said that that Churchill wasn't the winner of World War II.
Yeah, he didn't do enough to save Western civilization.
And it's like, and he's like, look at your country now. But it's like, dude, that was 80 years ago. They had a pretty good run for 60-something years, and now they have problems because of immigration that have nothing to do with Winston Churchill. But it's just like, it seems like it's like an energy move. There's just energy in that spot.
Yeah, I think just in general in this movement, and it's not specific to him, we need to have higher standards. We should elevate ourselves. We should expect more of ourselves. But I remember when, I am someone who really believes that Barack Obama is gay and that he has been with men. I believe that till my dying day. I will believe that. And
what's the main reason for you believing that?
The main reason is Tablet Magazine had a great series on this where they talked about the letters he wrote to his girlfriend at the time, where he talked about fantasizing about men. That's the evidence.
Right. Then there is also that guy that Tucker did interview.
But that's what I was going to say, which is, as someone who fully believes that Barack Hussein Obama is a gay man, or at least he's open and fluid and whatever. And I believe he is
just having a good time.
Yeah, he has slept with men. He's been with men. Yeah. And then Tucker has on this homeless, toothless weirdo. And I'm thinking, I don't believe this guy. And I believe Barack Obama has been with men. So if you're trying, my question for Tucker is, are you trying to convince people, or are you trying to get views? Mm-hmm. Because when I look at a video like that, I think I didn't even watch it because it was so weird. I didn't finish it because I'm like, this is just, I turned it off. And I wanted to like it.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that, because that's partly what I've been thinking with Tucker too, which is that it's like, okay, you were at Fox for so long, you had certain guardrails and you had to do things in very small segments. Mm-hmm. And every time I ever spent time with him when I was independent and he was on Fox, he was so impressed. He literally walked into my garage, not this one, but walked into my garage in Sherman Oaks. And I think his exact quote was, holy fucking shit, you did it. Meaning you're free and I'm not. You know what I mean? A guy's making $20 million a year and he's jealous of me. But I think sort of what's happened is he had certain guardrails, and you might say they were too tight. It's sort of like the conspiracy thing you just mentioned. And now he has none, so he's just willing to just question everything to the point of oblivion, in essence.
Yeah, and we're just seeing a lot of people, and we could take this more broadly in the movement. Sorry, I just moved my microphone. I don't know if that affected anything.
Let
me
the
know
whole
if it's
show.
a
We're
problem.
gonna have to start over, guys. Can we start over real quick?
Okay.
Oh, I got the thumbs up. It did not.
We're just gonna start all over.
It did not affect the broadcast.
Perfect.
We
Thank
can
you.
continue.
I'm new at this, but I shouldn't do this for a living, apparently. But we're seeing a lot of people learn history in real time and to sort of like, I guess, move us along from this because it isn't meant to be. And neither of us want to focus too much on this. But I loved when a few months ago everything was happening in South Korea, and I posted, "Oh wow, I didn't realize I had so many South Korean experts in my network." Because we have people who never even studied history in college. And again, you don't have to go to college. You could do it on your own. You could read books. But most people are reading Wikipedia articles on South Korea and then jumping in because they see one person and they think that's true. And this is also how we get the spread of.
Right. Well, it's basically like, even if you look at what's happening right now with the tariff stuff, I keep saying on my show, I'm not an economic expert. I'm certainly not a tariff expert. I understand the basic concept of tariffs and how you use leverage. But it's like people who cannot tie their shoes suddenly can tell you everything you need to know about tariffs. And it's like, maybe that is but that's also why the mainstream media just screwed all of us by being so terrible.
Yes. But that's why I think people need to be honest about what they know and don't know. And, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm like, there's so many avenues I could go down that I'd rather just stop myself there.
So you moved here to the free state of Florida.
Yes.
And things are pretty sweet here. Do you think you'll be a Floridian for life? Like this is really it?
I hope so. It's funny because I thought I was supposed to do this when I was 75. And it's been great doing it this early. I am infinitely happier. It's such a wonderful life. My dog is happier. I'll go back up to New York with my dog and I wipe his paws off that dirty New York City sidewalk. It's disgusting. With the salt. And it's just so dirty. It's nice to not see men shitting in the street outside of a 5-star restaurant. It's just nice to have normalcy. Although I will say, because I'm in Miami and I'm probably going to move a bit further north soon, but living in Miami is like living in a music video that you can't turn off. It's like, it's a funny place. And I always tell people the best part about living in Miami specifically is I love how close I am to the United States of America.
We are the northernmost point of South America, I think is what they say.
So I think moving a little further north, maybe closer to Mar-a-Lago land, like the second White House for the next 4 years, will be in my future. But I can't complain about Florida. It's basically the 6th borough in the winter too. So it feels like being in New York, but with guns. And that is great.
You go back to New York and you've done a bunch of videos. We've played them of just like the general state of ridiculousness. Yeah. Do you think that there's any hope for New York? I mean, they're getting some of the illegals off the street, so that's good.
I think there's always hope for things. And honestly, it's a crazy example, but I look at El Salvador from the last few years, and it would be tougher for America for many reasons to mirror that change. We don't have benevolent dictators. We are a much larger country. We're heterogeneous. It's very different. But their crime was so bad. And now they're one of the safest places in the world. And I looked at them before the election, before we knew that Trump would be president again. And I thought, you know what? If they can turn it around, we can turn it around. And everyone always thinks their situation is so dire, and then you come back. So I do think New York can come back. And I think a lot of what's happened with the popular vote is that there's social proof. People have social proof that it's okay to do. And we're seeing all these corporations are not doing dumb DEI stuff anymore. They're also getting rid of pronouns. Yeah. And they could have done that 2 months ago, and they chose not to. But now they're suddenly allowed to. So I think New York can come back, but you're going to have to rewire a lot of brains there.
You think any of the people that were in on this, you're seeing it now every day. There's people just dropping he, him, her, it, Zer, like all of that stuff. Or you're right, like they're just like removing. They still have it on Apple TV. They still have. I opened up, or was it Max, I guess, and it's now Black Month, so it's like black movies, and I just can't even imagine wanting. Yes, I'm so in the mood for a black movie or a white movie or a gay movie or anything else. Like, is it a good movie? How about that? Like, do they have a category?
No, but no movies
are
good anymore. So that's your answer.
Isn't much.
There's no such thing as a good movie anymore. Beyonce,
but that should turn around
Best
too.
Country.
Did she win it? I guess the Grammys were yesterday. Yeah.
And I said earlier today I was talking about this with people, and I was saying she's up on the stage with blonde hair, obviously fake. If you don't know, Black women don't have hair like that. She's fake blonde hair, winning the Country Music Album Award at the Grammys. imagine if it were this inverted situation where it's a white girl with cornrows winning rap. I don't know. Like,
right.
Can you imagine what the ladies of The View, we had to talk about Can you imagine what the ladies of The View would be saying if that's who won? This is MAGA cultural appropriation. She's riding on the people that she shits on, that she says are evil, that she says would send them to the gulags, which, by the way, it's all, every accusation is obviously a confession. They were all going to do that to us. I think you would have been on the first wave, by the way.
Yes.
I would have been on the second wave just because I only started a year ago.
I would have softened it up over there.
Yeah. You would have had like the margaritas ready when I arrived. Right?
Exactly.
But we would have been there together very fast. We would all have like IRS colonoscopy. We were all ready for that to happen. But the fact that Beyoncé could win the Country Music Award tells you so many things. It just tells you how rigged it is. It's like a Russian election. It's like Putin won the Country Music Award. It's just ridiculous.
Does it also just expose like how much none of them believe any of this nonsense? Obama 2 days before doing Very Fine People and then showing up to inauguration smiling. It's like none of you believe, or Schumer at the Al Davis dinner, like you guys, Al Smith dinner, you guys don't believe any of this.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they operate in a Sims reality, like nothing's actually real. I don't know what to make of it. I think they are the party of the most mental gymnastics that I've ever seen. These are the people who are trying to convince us that, to explain a trans man dating a trans woman, what does that look like? It's not, and that's who we're talking about. So yeah, of course.
You want to draw a picture?
God. Yeah, let's get a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That can be arranged. Okay. So you're very hopeful, it seems like, that this is getting sorted.
It's funny you say that because I think of myself as very cynical and pessimistic in a way. But I am always, I guess I'm hopeful. I always prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's generally my motto. It's probably the Jew in me, like the centuries of intergenerational trauma that makes me feel like you should always be ready for whatever's going to come, but you still have to have that faith that it's always going to get better. So it's probably from that.
What do we do with the lefty Jews who still don't get it, especially post October 7th?
I think we just have to disown them. It's really becoming, it's really problematic. They give us a really bad name. Every show on Netflix that involves Jews is such a misrepresentation of Jews. And it's something that people on the right who are far right, who are anti-Semitic right, like these neo-Nazis, they look at those shows and they think that represents Jews and that it represents the Jews on the right, which it doesn't. These Jews do not have, they don't even have self-preservation in mind with the way they act. I don't know what to say about them, but if you don't get it now at this point, you're just never going to get it. So I'm not hopeful there.
So you're definitely not hopeful there.
I'm definitely not hopeful there. Yeah. I can't figure. It's like we're the dumbest smart people. I just can't explain this.
Yeah.
It's an age-old question.
Well, it's the difference between intelligence and smarts, something like that.
Yes. I don't really get it. It's like this over-intellectualized idea of, and there are all these theories, and was it John Putteritz? Which Putteritz? One of the Putteritzes wrote that book, Why Are Jews Liberal? And they ascribe it to all kinds of things, whether it's FDR, which, by the way, he turned around also a ship carrying Jews that went to Auschwitz. But there are all these ideas of why the fact that we were immigrants and now we feel the need to be this way. I don't know what it is. It feels like a mental defect in these Jews that they just are so liberal and they cannot wake up to see how hated they are by their own movement that actively works against them.
The Nazi crew is definitely going to clip you saying that out of context and put that up. Congratulations.
I'm giving them so much.
Let's circle back to the ladies of The View for a moment because I don't know what I would do without them. But they're all seemingly more hysterical, more crazy, but it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And now they're saying that they're going to have to bring in some sane people.
Is that? Oh my God. I'd rather kill myself, honestly. I'd rather be waterboarded.
The ratings alone.
I'd rather
you
be
wouldn't want to sit
waterboarded.
at a table between Whoopi and Anna Navarro
No,
every
because
day?
there are people who are actually smart that I would enjoy a conversation with who would have very different political views than I do. And then there are the dimwits that are they sniff too much glue in high school, ladies of The View,
right,
where they're just so infinitely stupid that I think I would end up smashing my head through a wall.
What does that say about the difference of the mind of men and women in some ways? That if there could never be a show that was 5 men let's say, that the level of political discourse was so idiotic. Because everyone would be like, these people are complete morons, whatever. Where on The View, there's some other, where it's like most people now realize that they're not that bright, that they're hypocrites, all of that stuff. But for some reason, because they're women, there's like this feeling of like, oh, let them be crazy or something like that?
It could be this whole idea that women tend to be more liberal. They don't need the facts. And I always, Ben Shapiro's famous quote is, facts don't care about your feelings. And I said this to him in front of you. I said, I think you're wrong. I think feelings don't care about the facts. And a lot of women go off of feeling, not fact. I don't think a single person in this country voted in this election because of new facts that they discovered. I don't think anyone thought, oh, they're actually transing more kids than I knew, or it's more widespread than I realized, or groceries, their inflation really is that bad, or there are this many illegals coming over the border. It wasn't, I don't think it was those numbers. You felt it. You had kids that were going to school with furries who were shitting in litter boxes in their bathroom. You were going to the supermarket realizing that you could afford less, or that everything cost you more, right? Like you had, illegals in your neighborhood, things were getting more dangerous because of the border issues. People felt it. But that also plays into then the women of The View,
right,
who are able to capture liberal women's minds. I also wonder, honestly, do we think most of their views are just hate watches and it's just all of right wing?
No, well, right. Well, that's the thing. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know anyone that watches The View unironically, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm playing the clips, it's not, if they said something sane, I mean, we do it every now and again. Like sometimes on CNN, something sane happens and I'm like, I want you guys to see this because I'm trying to give the devil his due. But like, who's watching that going, like feeling better about themselves after, and
maybe it's because we're not
on this thing.
Maybe because we're not friends with like 60-year-old liberal women from wherever that we're in our own sort of bubble that we don't think, God, we don't experience that. But
is Whoopi's pot dealer like watching that show? Like, this is great.
Like, I have friends who watch Bill Maher because they're on the left and they like Bill Maher, so they actually unironically watch him. I watch him when my friends are on, but people actually watch him, right? People actually.
But there's a difference.
But of course, I'm not comparing. Yeah, but because I'll watch some of his shows and think like, I mean, I think a lot of his views are annoying. But it's more annoying than outrageous, right? But people actually watch these people. No one's watching The View that I know. But only in doctors' offices. It's like every hospital, like Dasani and The View, just have chokeholds over all these branches across the country. So that's how they get their viewers.
Oh, maybe it has something to do with the plastic in the water, and then they watch that, and then something.
I don't know. Maybe it's like to distract you in the waiting room so you don't realize how long you've been waiting for the doctor because you're so... I remember I was sitting waiting for a doctor's appointment, and The View was on, and I thought, oh, great. Okay. And it's when Whoopi said that Hitler wasn't going after the Jews. Remember when she said that? And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, this is crazy. And then I wanted to keep watching to see where this would go and what people would say to her. So when they called my name, I wanted to say, actually, do you think we could could you take the next person? So I think...
Right. You could have said, look, I don't need to wait in that room alone for 20 minutes now because that's what they do.
Yeah.
This is becoming Curb Your Enthusiasm,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of... We could really lean into Curb here if we want. Just take this in a new direction,
So, all right, you're a bit of a pessimist, I suppose, or something. I always say I'm world weary. That's the way I describe it. Like, I'm an optimist, but I'm world weary. Like, I do think things can get better, but I don't think they like magically get better. It's something like that. But like, all right, we got 4 years of this thing. It's going to be pretty good, right?
Yeah. It's bittersweet because I think we'll never have this much fun again. I think we're living through a truly special time. And as someone who was very skeptical of Trump in 2015 when he was running and, started in 2016, I was skeptical because I'm from New York. He was a New York Democrat businessman, and I did not trust that he would truly be conservative. And then we got to see how he, ran the country for 4 years, and I was so impressed. It was above and beyond what I could have expected from him. And I was glad when he won, obviously in 2016, but I just wasn't sure exactly what it would look like. And now I get emotional when I think about just everything he's doing, the way he's sacrificed his life for us, really, like he's put everything on the line, We did not know it would turn out this way. We didn't know it would end in this kind of amazing character arc where almost every foe is a friend. You know, like even a selfie with Megyn Kelly. If you told us in 2016 that would happen,
right?
It's not totally surreal, but
right after she was bleeding out of her,
you know what, you know, and so and they're in photos, and he's laughing with Letitia James at the Al Smith dinner, and you know, Trudeau is calling him about tariffs, and Mexico's sending troops to the border, and you know, the whole world, it has been endeared by him now, and they get to see what we see.
Do you think that's the ultimate, like, repellent to some of the things that you're worried about on the right? Because that's actually what I think more than anything else, is that if Trump just keeps getting things right, which he is getting, and there's going to be, you know, Elon said there'll be some, you know, bumps along the way and some pain points or whatever. But if things just keep getting better, I'm not that worried about the conspiracy theorists and the crazy people and the obsession with the Jews or hating America or thinking our history's bad or that, you know, all of this stuff. I think it'll just be it'll always be for a certain set of people that want just like chaos, but everyone else will just kind of move on and look around and be like, oh, like we have borders again, the economy's working, we're on this AI horizon, like things will be better. And I think people will just get on board that.
So this is where the pessimism in me might really come out. Because this is it's actually not totally related to all those concerns that you listed that are other different concerns. But I think people have really short memories. And people voted for Trump. And we can't confuse voting for Republicans, voting for the right, voting for conservative values. That should not be confused with voting for Trump or voting against the left and against the government. And so what actually really worries me, and this is something that you could see Trump actually trying to figure out with his legacy and setting us up. It's not just about Trump right now and his victories in this moment. He's clearly thinking about how do we set up the Republican Party well in a few years. And you saw that at the RNC with the people he had speaking, where you could see the next generation of leadership that's young, which the Democrats don't have right now. So that does make me...
What do you mean? They just selected David Hogg as vice chair. It's very exciting.
So thank God. Yeah. May they never learn. But... So in that way, I'm hopeful, but I'm also cautious about the fact that Trump is so special that he drew in so many people who might not be motivated in the same way to get up and vote, especially because I do think he's going to do such a good job and he will course correct this country and the world that things are going to be good in 3 years when this election is really kicking off properly. And people on the left who felt, you know what, things are so bad, I'm gonna, for the first time in my life, vote Republican. Those people might not be.
They just peel back.
They just peel back because it's not bad enough for them to do it.
That is the pessimist's take. Yeah, I see it. No, it's nice that you smiled while you said it. I do feel a little bit better.
We're fucked.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. Well, you know this from living down here. It's like the amount of disaffected libs and former Cali, diehard Democrats that are here now and are the most crazed Republican, MAGA, America flag, blah 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 people. That is what gives me hope here. That and it also this Maha thing. I think really like. Yeah. As that combines with MAGA, I think that shows something strong. So maybe that is just the difference between a world-weary optimist and a smiling pessimist.
No, I think I need to come up with my own term. Yeah. I didn't know I had to have something.
No, you have to have a term.
I need a term.
World-weary optimist.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back on this one, but because pessimist is wrong. Because I'm a very actually hopeful, happy person. You want to be an optimist prime,
not a negatron. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't know.
Did that reference not make... okay.
Just right over. But people, when this happens, by the way, when I'm on your show and these things go over my head, there are always a lot of comments making fun of me.
Don't worry, 90% of my references go over my entire staff.
Everyone else, I know. But but I think like I wake up in the morning happy. I'm a happy person. I enjoy life. I think I just always like to be prepared and I don't like to get complacent, especially as a lifelong conservative, Republican, whatever, it's changed over time. But I've had my heart broken way too many times. Even in Trump's first term, we were still the underdogs because they just took us for such a ride that we were not really in control. And that's why this time is so different. But I'm used to the way things are with the left. They are very good at mobilizing and consolidating. And even though, like, yes, they're retarded. Yes, they don't learn certain lessons. Yes, they're so silly. They've won a lot. They're very effective, and we cannot discount that. And so I just think we need to stay focused. Don't assume anything. You know, I don't think Trump's win this year, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, I do not think it was predestined or predetermined a year ago before Elon got involved. And I think without Elon, he may not necessarily have been able to win. So if that's the case, and this was Trump, then what happens in 4 years?
That was going to be my last question, but now it seems like a very depressing ending to this thing. I have all these papers here. I didn't look at any of them. Is there anything else that you'd like to say that's I could do this?
We need to end on a really happy note.
Yes, tell me something very deep and philosophical.
Oh my gosh, there are so many different things to talk about. What I will say is, and maybe this is, I mean, it's not like happy or funny, and I'm usually like that. I'm usually the funny one.
Yeah.
But I'm just a girl, so I'm just doing my best here.
Yeah, just try for a girl. For a girl, yeah. But, you don't have to be like laugh out loud, but for a chick, do something funny.
No, but I get it's just to end on the point of that this is what I'm worried about in 4 years. This is the genie that the left let out of the bottle that they haven't been able to put back in, that they've been trying to, that they actually created this dark MAGA, right?
It's all on them.
It's all actually on them.
Right. It's like when they keep saying, you guys, look, we need our own Joe Rogan. It's like, you idiots had Joe Rogan. You had everybody.
They lost them all, but now it's one thing to lose them. Now we have to keep them.
Yeah.
And that's on us. And so that's what we really need to be, again, focused on. No one should get complacent. But what I will say is we are now the fun ones, the attractive ones, the funny ones. And I think we're in for a really great time, the golden era, baby. So there we go. Ending on a high note.
And that is a proper ending to an interview. You want a fist bump or something?
Is that what we're doing?
What do they do? What do they do on the right?
Like we're in Ilhan Omar's family gathering or something.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop screaming, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.